Hey everyone, welcome to part 3 of this trust series that I'm doing. I'll have one more part after this. So welcome to Real Life and Leadership, and I'd like to continue. My name is Timothy Pecoraro. I'm so glad I'm talking with you and sharing this with you. But if you haven't watched the other two, I recommend you listen to part 1 and part 2 of this series. But this is part 3, and this is a big one. So what this is all about: when trust breaks, how to heal, how to respond, and how to let it go. Now, this can be in your personal life. This can be professional life. It doesn't matter. It's all going to be the same. It's still, I mean, there may be some different, things that you got to deal with, some different obstacles and stuff, but the rudiments, the basics here are going to be the same. Okay. So before I jump into part 3 today, I just want to give you a quick review on parts 1 and 2. So in part 1, we talked about the 5 non-negotiables that it takes to build trust, and they are humility. That's when people trust honesty more than perfection. Transparency, recognizing that hidden truth cracks trust, and honesty will cement it. 3 is empathy. That listening is going to build that bridge, right? When you listen, it builds a bridge, but dismissing is going to only make walls. It's just going to build walls and barriers. The fourth non-negotiable was consistency, that truth grows in patterns, not in promises. And then the 5th one was putting others first. Self-interest creates distance, but genuine care creates loyalty. That's what we're looking for. So what's the takeaway? Trust isn't one big decision. You know what trust is? It's 1,000 small choices that you and I choose to live out every single day. So then part 2, I came and I was like, I've got to make sure I know, how do people earn trust once it's been broken? I have broken trust before. I've broken people's trust. I don't know if you have or not, and hopefully if you have, you'll recognize it and pay attention to it so that you get better at not doing that. Okay. There's a lot that goes into why we break trust. Okay. I'm going to do a whole other topic on a talk one day on the things that we do that are just really, frankly, they're pretty dumb. We do some dumb things as people. But in part 2, it's how to earn trust once it's been broken. So I gave 5 things, just like there's 5 non-negotiables. These are 5 ways to earn trust once it's been broken. All right. So the first thing is you own it fully. You can't rebuild what you won't admit you broke. I mean, that's 101. You cannot rebuild what you won't admit you broke. Second is apologize clearly. So a real apology is humble, it's specific, and it's paired with change. So you humble yourself. You're very specific about what it is that you broke, and then you actually do something different. You pair that with change. You can't just say I'm sorry and then move on. Sorry means I didn't mean to do it. But when you repent with humility, you're specific, you ask for forgiveness, and then you work on changing. Now we're going somewhere. That's apologizing clearly. Then you show that you change through your actions. So trust returns through patterns, not promises. It's a big deal. Patterns, not promises. Patterns of better behavior, better decisions, not I promise to change next time. I promise to do better. No, it's making a change. Then we have the 4th one, which is give space. So you don't demand speed. You don't say, hey, I apologize. When are you gonna let me go? Isn't it enough? Isn't it good enough? I already said I'm sorry. No, that's just you wanting to get out of jail, basically. So you got to give space and don't demand speed. Healing happens on their timeline, not yours. That's hard. Okay. And then serve first, expect later. So what that means is consistent selflessness reopens the door to trust. When you become the person who serves first without the expectation right now, you're consistent. Don't even come in with an expectation. Don't hit them with that. Just change. Show that you're different, because the consistent selflessness that will reopen the door to begin to trust again, help them trust again. So the big idea there wasn't it in part 2 wasn't what was it? It was this. It was broken trust isn't rebuilt in a moment, right? So it's not the speed part. It's not in a moment. It's rebuilt over time through new patterns of behavior. right? Behavior follows belief. No person will consistently behave in a way that's inconsistent with how they see themselves. So if they don't see themselves as wrong, they're going to continue. It's going to come out. The pattern will be that they'll still operate that way. But if they recognize that where they are, they're wrong in something, and they've hurt somebody, they've broken trust, now they can begin to change, right? So it's not rebuilt in a moment. It's going to take time. So this brings us to part 3. That's where we are today. So what we're going to talk about is what to do when you're on the receiving end of broken trust. So how do you respond when someone's willing to make it right, right? They've broken trust. They want to make it right. And how do you move forward when they're not ready to make it right? So this is a big one, okay? So we're going to talk about what happens when these tables turn. When you're the one who's been let down, you've been maybe lied to or disappointed, because being on the receiving end of broken trust can shake your confidence. It can blur your boundaries and test your ability to actually forgive. Forgiveness is huge, especially in my world as a believer. Forgiveness is something I can't receive forgiveness from God if I can't give forgiveness. And also, I have to go and learn to ask for forgiveness when I've wronged or hurt someone. Not just I'm sorry, not just apologize, but say, hey, I am sorry and I ask your forgiveness. So for me, that's a big deal. Okay. So your confidence gets broken big time. The lines, the boundaries get all messed up, and it can test your ability to forgive when you've been hurt. But here's the good news. Even if you didn't break it, you still have power in how you handle it. That's the thing I want to say to you. You have power in what you're going to do next. You can choose to heal. You get to choose how to respond. You can also choose if you want to heal in that response, or you also know that it's time maybe to just let go. You just got to let them go. So that's what we're going to get into, is how to navigate broken trust on this side of it when you're the one that's been harmed or hurt. So let's start this way. When trust breaks, okay, I want you to think about when trust is actually broken and you know it's been broken. It can feel like everything underneath you comes out. Everything beneath you is just gone. You know, whether it's a friend who lied, it's a coworker who didn't follow through, maybe a project falls through, and man, it's a huge disappointment. Or a family member betrays you, betrays your confidence. A close friend betrays your confidence. That kind of pain cuts so deep because trust is personal. Now, I just want to give a side note, okay, and a little sidebar here. I work with a lot of companies, and I know a lot of people will use this term. It's not personal, it's business. You're dealing with people, and you can hurt people very deeply, especially if you've been withholding from them. So you can't just say it's just business and I want to move on. And it's not personal, but you've been misleading them. You've been lying to them. You've been making them think something is a certain way that it's not. You've been maybe withholding from them. You've known something you could have shared with them and you didn't do it. I've seen this in the business world time and again. And they'll go, well, it's just business. It's a business decision. No, but you made a lot of personal decisions prior to that business decision. And that's the thing that I want you to understand. I'm talking about the pain that cuts a person deep, and that trust because it's personal, in that area of trust because it's deeply personal. So it's not about so much what someone did. It's about what it cost you. It's the peace, the safety, the confidence, maybe even part of your identity gets rocked when that happens. So for the person that's listening to me and you are the trust breaker, you have to understand it is personal. Do not say it's just business if it's work stuff. Especially if you've been honest, you've been open, all these things, and it's out of your control and you've had integrity and character. You've not met, okay, great. I get it. That's just business. Hey, sorry, we can't work with you anymore. Or, hey, we got to move on. I get it. We don't have the money. But if underneath there, it's a different message, but you're just using one and not the other, that's when you can be hurting a person. Just know that you're on the right side of that. Make sure you're truthful. Make sure this is not something that you're just saying because it fits the narrative that you need at the moment. Remember, at the end of the day, when you lay your head on your pillow, be the person that knows in your heart that you've been honest to the utmost, that you've had character. you've had integrity. And a lot of people spend a lot of time coming up with convincing themselves that what they did was right. If you have to spend that much time convincing yourself that your decision that you made was right, I wonder if you made the right decision. Especially if you know that you've been deceptive, misleading, withholding, any of those things. So you have to work that out. I'll probably do something on that, talk on that as well one day. So today though, I want you to find a way to move forward, right? I want to help you, because while you can't control another person's choices, you do get to control your responses. And that's where your healing begins. So even at work, I've been coaching some folks at a high level that are corporate level, C-suite individuals, and they've been hurt. They've been looked over for promotions. They thought that they would go up. Somebody new comes in, passes them. This has nothing to do with gender or race or anything like that. This has to do with a lot of misunderstandings and that I've had to work with. But until you get people to come in and first do some of these things and acknowledge this and have conversations about it, you're not going to be able to see a way through. And typically, most of these corporations will see a very disgruntled individual that can cause a lot of problems, and then a leader that continues to move on the way that they've been moving. Instead, what I like to do is bring that leader in to see what's really going on, really what's happening, and understand it, and get the individual who's feeling this way to be able to share what's happening, put it out into the room, into the open, because a lot of times what you find out is there are things that are in their control that could be changed, and things that are not in their control that cannot be changed. What we want to do is separate them and know the difference, and then to be able to have a conversation around what can be done within this relationship, what can be known, so moving forward things can be better or different. It's a big, big deal. So if you're willing to rebuild, I believe there's a path to restoration. But if someone is not willing to, if a person is not ready to heal, or help heal the situation, and they refuse to take responsibility or make any change, which I've known people like that. I know people have made a mistake. They'll go to their grave lying about it because they're going to tell themselves what they did was right, or they just want to scoot past it and avoid it. Then your next step isn't to do revenge, guys. If you're on that side that you're hurt, it's to release them. So we're going to talk about both sides of this, right? How to work with someone who's trying to earn your trust back, and how to let go when they're not, right? I've had to do both. I've been on the side of both. I've been the person who's not willing to heal and help heal, and I've been let go. I've been on the side that I've wanted to, and they worked with me. Okay. I've also been on the side where someone's hurt me and they refuse, and I've had to let them go, and they want to heal and fix it, and I work with them to rebuild it. So here's the first one. I'm going to give you some here, and I think I'll end up with 5. So I have 5 non-negotiables. It looks like each one of these is how to build trust. Here, this right here is a summary of how to respond when trust is broken. Okay. So start with number 1 is acknowledge the pain. You don't want to bury it. I believe don't bury things. You have to acknowledge it. So you can't heal what you won't name or you don't reveal. So most of us try to rush past pain because sitting in it feels like weakness. But ignoring what hurt you doesn't make it go away. It just pushes you deeper into it, where it turns into resentment. So in life, maybe a close friend, they trash talked you. Maybe they said something about you, and now you're pretending it doesn't matter, whatever. Or maybe at work, it's a leader who promised a raise or a promotion, and it never came. Maybe some recognition never happened. In both cases, though, pretending you're fine is only going to delay your ability to heal. So before you move on, I think it's important to pause, to admit that hurt me. That moment of honesty is the doorway to your future restoration. That's a big one. I'm going to say that again. That moment of honesty becomes your doorway to restoration. There's a psalm I like, and if you're not a believer, that's fine. But you can go look this up. Maybe you can find a proverb, something that helps you. But this Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." This helps me to know that there is a way to restore and to heal, and that is my goal. Is that He's not going to want me angry and just holding people, against the wall for something they've done. But He's going to help me with my broken heart. But He's going to help me with my crushed spirit if I've been on that side of it, but he's going to want me to be honest so that I can find that doorway to restoration. Okay. So the first one is acknowledge the pain, don't bury it. And once you face the pain honestly, the next step is to get clear about what really happened and how serious it is. This is a big one. Like, what really happened and how serious is this thing? So not every failure is the same. So there's a difference between a mistake and someone's mindset, a mindset of something. So in sports, a teammate who misses a pass once, they just need to practice. That's about practicing, right? But a teammate who refuses to pass the ball at all is showing a pattern of pride. So at work, an employee who forgets a deadline once, they can learn that, right? But one who blames everyone else every single month about that deadline isn't learning. They're choosing just not to. So here's the rule. You can forgive instantly, but you rebuild trust gradually. So what I mean by that is forgiveness releases the offense. When you start and you just say, I forgive, that means I'm going to release the offense. And then the discernment I have is going to help me determine the distance or space that I need in this, discerning the mistake versus a pattern. I want to know discernment. I'm going to know if this is a pattern, more distance. If this is just a mistake, I can stay in proximity. I'm okay here. So if it's a one-time mistake, the person owns it, you can rebuild the trust. But if it's a repeated pattern, right, you need boundaries before you offer access. That's a big deal. Get boundaries before you offer access if it's repeated. So if you see real humility and change, there's something powerful you can do next. Meet them with both grace and truth. And that's the third one, grace and truth. Number one, acknowledge the pain, don't bury it. Number two, discern mistakes versus pattern. Third one is engage with grace and truth. So when someone's trying to make things right, don't punish their effort. I see this all the time. People just, that's not good enough. I mean, it can make a person be like, just let them try, let them start. They'll say, well, I would do this. Well, you're not the one that did it. They did. Okay, that's the issue is you be you, let them be them. And if you want to build trust, then you got to let them learn to do it. You got to walk with them through it. So don't punish their effort, partner with their effort, work with that effort. It's a big one. Partner with their effort. Because grace says this, I believe you can change, right? I'm a growth mindset person. Great book, recommend you read it. It's called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. Also read the Bible. It'll help you renew your mind. But grace says, I believe you can change. I have a growth mindset. I believe you can grow too, not a fixed mindset. Truth says, so grace says, I believe you can change, but truth says, but here's what that change needs to look like. Okay? Grace, I believe you can change. Truth, here's what it needs to look like. If a teammate admits they dropped the ball, you extend the grace. But truth means you still expect accountability moving forward. It doesn't mean just do it again and again and again and again. No. There's accountability. We're going to introduce accountability so we don't fall into this again. If a family member apologizes for breaking your confidence, you forgive. But the truth means you rebuild slowly with clearer boundaries. So when both are present, trust has a chance to heal. So when you have grace present, you have truth present, then trust has a chance to heal. I'm going to use another passage of scripture. It's one of my favorites. Ephesians 4:15 says, it tells us to speak the truth in love. Because without love, truth feels harsh. And without truth, love feels very hollow. So it's very important to speak the truth in love. Love, right? It's so important that because truth alone can just feel harsh. That's why love is needed. But without the truth, that love is going to feel shallow, hollow, empty. All right? And remember, our goal is to heal. So we want grace and truth present. But what if you can't? What if you can't? No. What if, we're not going to talk about you. What if they don't change? That's a bigger way to look at it. What if the same behavior just keeps repeating? What if you're doing all the things that you need to do, but they just keep repeating? And you're the one still left hurt again. So here's where number 4 comes in. You set boundaries when there's no change. So when someone refuses to take responsibility or keeps repeating the same pattern, it's time that you protect your peace. You got to protect it. Boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're there to protect what matters most to you. It's what you won't participate in. It's what you're not going to get involved in. So that's the boundary. I don't put a boundary in it. It's not about someone else. The boundary is about what I'm protecting what matters most in my world, and I'm not letting that in. I'm not letting something in to disrupt this world of my peace. So in life, that might mean you limit access. You may have shorter conversations. You may put clearer expectations out, or you might even create some super distance, a lot of distance. Okay. At work, that could mean restructuring responsibilities or requiring accountability before trust is restored. So you might, and I've had to do this. We do, instead of just slapping pips on this company I work with, their human resource officer doesn't just slap on pips. I'm the people development guy. So I work with them, and I teach the direct report and their supervisor to work together, and I coach them on how to build. So here's the thing that's been broken. So instead of this super write up, remember, behavior follows belief. You want to deal with that belief system, and how do we make it better, and find out what's going on. And then the accountability is introduced and says, okay, we're giving you this trust, we're giving you this responsibility, but we're doing these check-ins, and we're going to make sure that this is that. We're going to inspect what we expect and help that person to grow. And by and large, I see time and again that when we do it that way, I would say over 80% of the time, things change. And bad habits or these problems do not persist and they're not repeated. And I'm telling you, it works. You can do it in relationship and in life too. So I think it's so important that accountability be introduced before trust is restored when you have that type of problem. And you can still be kind and hopeful, but don't confuse grace with permission. Okay. Grace forgives, but boundaries are going to prevent repeat damage. Think about that. Grace is going to forgive, but when I set this boundary, which is necessary, it's going to prevent repeat damage. There's a proverb 4:23. It says, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And so that's what a boundary is for me. It's guarding this heart again. I got to guard it. So check this out. We're on the last one here. If that person still won't change, they still don't want to work and build trust again, if they reject any type of cooperation, collaboration, correction, and they resist ownership, your next move isn't fight harder. It's just to release them. So release, don't retaliate. That's your 5th one. Okay, number 1 was acknowledge the pain, don't bury it. Number 2, discern whether it's a mistake or a pattern. Number 3 is engage with grace and truth. Number 4 is set boundaries when there's no change. And number 5, release, don't retaliate. So this is the hardest step, but it's also the most freeing when it's appropriate. Sometimes the relationship or the partnership, it simply reaches a necessary ending. It's important for you to know when it's reached that point. That doesn't mean you stop caring, though. It means you stop carrying what's not yours to fix. I'm going to say that again. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop carrying what is not yours to fix. So in friendships, that might look like forgiving quietly and walking away in peace. Forgive quietly, walk away peacefully. At work, it might mean moving someone out of a role that they've repeatedly misused. I'm not saying fire and termination. They may not have that role anymore. And I see this all the time. People go right straight to termination. I'm like, no, sometimes what you have to do, if they're not going to change, but yet they're not doing anything that's terminable, you may have to move them and especially if they're dropping the ball on things over and over and over again. Well, with privilege comes responsibility. So, I need you to, I give you this lead role to do this thing. You're not doing this thing. So you're not doing the responsible thing. Every time I offer accountability, it's not there. So I need to remove you from that role. I mean, that's just the way it works. So you can't force people to reconcile. You can't force people to want to fix things. You can't force people to see things your way. But you know what you can do? You can choose peace. You sure can. That's why I say release them and release yourself so the wound can close and the lesson can stay that's inside of you, what you've learned from it all. I've had to go through that. I have a person, listen, I am somehow living in their head rent free and they are still trying to do whatever they can to harm me. I just have no idea what it is, but I've had to let them go and I have to release them. And I've learned my lessons and I've learned that there's certain people you just cannot trust. There are some people that will do whatever they can to get ahead. And I've had to learn that lesson. But the thing is I have peace in my heart and I've let them go. I pray for them. I hope they can get better. But man, they to this day, over a year ago, and they're still like at it. So I released them and I released myself. Romans 12:18 says this, if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. That's Romans 12:18. That is so good. If possible, so far as it depends on you, whatever's in you, what your part of this is, live peaceably with all. Man, that is such good guidance. So in closing, how do you respond when trust breaks? Number one, acknowledge it. Acknowledge the pain. Don't bury it. Number two, discern what's the difference is between the mistake and a pattern. So forgive instantly, rebuild gradually, right? The third is engage with grace and truth. Love them enough to be honest, right? Fourth is set boundaries when there's no change. Protect your peace. That's what that's all about. And number five, release, don't retaliate. That's a big one. Let go of what no longer grows. If it's not growing, let it go. So you can't control someone else's repentance, apologies, or change. But I can tell you this, you absolutely can control your response. So healing starts the moment that you stop rehearsing the hurt and you start choosing the peace. And when you do, here's what you're going to find. You're going to find that letting go isn't losing. It's making room for what's healthy. It's making room for wholeness. It's making room for you because you're saying, I am ready to grow. So I hope you put this to work. This is part 3 of this trust series. And I hope that you will make that room and be ready to grow. On this side of if you've been the one that's been hurt, you can do it. You can't control them. You can't control their repentance. You can't control their decisions of what they do next, but you can control your response. So go and grow. And so until next time, we'll talk soon.